We're joined by Timothy Summers. He's a cybersecurity professor at the University of Maryland. Tim, thanks for joining us. Happy holidays.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Tim, it's a day before Christmas Eve. For those people that have left their shopping till the 11th hour, what advice can you give them?
Well, I definitely would give them the advice of making sure that they think before they click and swipe. Make sure that if you're shopping online, where we've seen a lot of people there's a substantial increase of online shoppers. We saw Cyber Monday have a 12% increase. So people are online much more. Be sure to be safe, use official retailers, and just think and keep in mind that there are lots of factors.
It seems that consumers and shoppers are thinking about this more. According to NCC Group, an international data group, 60% of surveyed shoppers say they are more worried now than ever before about shopping online and cybersecurity. Is online shopping that much riskier, considering you do have the till hacking that we've seen at Target and Home Depot and such?
Yes, online shopping is quite risky, but it's just so convenient and so easy, and we just enjoy doing it so much. But keep in mind that whenever a malicious email goes out, for example, a phishing email, for 50% of folks, they click on the link within the first hour. So there still are a lot of people out there clicking on malicious links.
They still haven't gotten that that's just a way to phish information.
Yes.
Well, what is the best way to detect that a link could be malicious?
Well, if you find emails or receive emails from friends or family asking for money or personal information, always be cognizant and wary of that. If you receive an email
regardless, you should just be wary of that.
In general, right? And if you receive an email from your bank saying, hey, send us this personal information or click on this link and we're going to collect some information from you, that also is a bit scary. Call your bank first, ask them if they sent this to you.
Right, always verify the information. Now, speaking of bank accounts, is it safer to use PayPal, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay rather than giving your credit card information when making online transactions?
These systems are providing some additional levels of security. However, many times it's not the way that you as the consumer pay. Many times it's the risk on the retailer side of things. For example, just an hour ago, Hyatt Hotels admitted that they've had a malware breach and that they've lost a ton of data. More than likely, it wasn't because of the technology that the consumer used, but rather it was on the payment processing side of the retailer.
What tips can you give consumers for online shopping? Your 3 top tips.
Top tips, I would say, if you're going to shop online, make sure that the web address says HTTPS. The S is for secure. Keep that in mind first and foremost. The other thing is that if you're going to use retailers, the most secure retailers are using two-factor authentication, meaning something you know and something you have. And that's usually your password and maybe some kind of token. That's one of the benefits we're seeing with the chip and pen credit cards that are coming out now. The third thing I would say is make sure that you stick to just a few retailers. The major ones are great. Amazon, you stick to the big guys. That way you know that at least there's some sense of protection there.
Now, is it better to use a credit card as opposed to a debit card where maybe you have more of a chance of reversing a transaction?
Sure. Using a credit card, especially if you're out in a physical store, using the credit card is definitely safer. Use your signature before your PIN. Keep that in mind.
Well, Tim, you mentioned shopping at stores. Last year, we had a slew of incidents. Target, Home Depot, Kmart. We haven't really heard anything about it this year. Now, keeping in mind that it did take Target 6 months to discover that they were hacked and to let the public know. Have we not heard about these incidents because they haven't occurred, because retailers are getting better at keeping their security safer, or because we just haven't heard the bad news yet?
Well, yeah, and this is a perfect question. We have to remember that anytime a breach happens, there's always a little bit of time before the company has found out. For example, I mentioned the situation with Hyatt. They're not sure how long that's been going on. So I suspect that we'll find out about a lot of data breaches a little bit later, after companies have had the time to actually look through the data. Right now, retailers are focused on selling and consumers are focused on buying.
Yes, they are. And speaking of buying, you quickly mentioned the US credit card system that's now working the chip in. How is that safer?
Well, there are 3 different mechanisms that work with those cards. One, there is a card authentication, there is a person authentication where you're using a PIN, and then there's also a transaction authorization. Those are the three things that are additional with these new cards that we didn't get with just the regular swiping. But we've already seen hackers hack those cards. In 2011, there were some French hackers who actually took advantage of them quite seriously.
Tim, personally, I'm waiting for biometrics, retina scans.
Right.
But we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Tim Summers, Cybersecurity Professor at the University of Maryland. All right.